Welcome back guys to a new Odyssey video. It has been long ago since I made my last ranking of best builds. And since Korfu Island has changed and introduced so many new things and new glitches have been found since then, I've decided to create the ultimate top 10 ranking list for the best builds I've ever created. The builds in this list are not just any builds. Most of these builds have fundamentally changed the way we play this game and even introduced new tricks and new glitches that have never been used before. So only the most groundbreaking builds I have considered to be worth mentioning in this list. And of course you can find all the builds linked in the description of this video if you want to check out a particular one. Korfu Island has been a major turning point for creating builds in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, since it came with so many fundamental changes that it is only valid that I only include builds that were made after it. One of the first builds that was created after the Korfu Island DLC was released was the new max damage build for 2022, which was completely insane and the first build that actually broke 300,000 warrior damage. It was so powerful that with a normal overpower animation cancel you could deal up to 40 million damage, which was more than enough to even one-shot the Hekaton Chirus, the biggest boss in the game, with a single hit. However, this build is also an absolute glass cannon with zero protection, but it was the first build that exploited the full potential of the Korfu champion engraving, which you can find on Korfu Island if you go to the Collidi farm and then collect the solution in the northeastern part of the map. This engraving can be further exploited if you combine it with the hunter damage conversion, so that you can get up to 300% warrior and assassin damage out of it, which is just simply insane. That is how you can reach these sky-high warrior damage numbers. And its successor build, the 2023 version, even included an additional 100% headshot damage to make it even crazier for your arrows. Shortly after that, we were also able to smash out a new damage world record with the Korfu engraving, the Typhoon's Axe and the 500% damage while covered in black oil. All this together gave us a total damage of up to 1.8 billion damage in a single hit, but it only had a chance of less than 1% to actually trigger and give us this damage. So this is not a build for daily play, but it is a crazy achievement that definitely deserves a spot in this list. But if you also want to deal 1 billion damage, you should rather check out a different build that makes it much easier to deal 1 billion damage, which will come later in this list. The Korfu Island stuff also allowed us for the first time ever to make a level 10 build that is already able to one-shot every enemy and even mercenaries as low as on level 10, which is just plain crazy. This is the lowest level ever you can even consider to make a build for. You have to imagine on this level you can't even use the beacon bow because you have not unlocked your left weapon, so it is even more amazing that we are able to deal so much damage, and the level 12 build made it even better. By using the Blade of Yumminess in combination with the second sight bow, you were able to have up to 300% headshot damage, and since headshot damage is a multiplier that is always applied when you make a headshot and you don't need any crit chance for it, these engravings and weapons made low level builds below level 20 possible for the first time ever. However, these builds have always been in the shadow of its bigger brothers, the level 20 builds, which are one of the most viewed and absolutely craziest builds and videos I've ever created. The level 22 1 million damage and the level 22 2 million damage builds have been viewed almost 1 million times if you put both of these view counts together. That is the point in the game where it really makes sense to start a build. You have the beacon bow, you have all the powerful abilities, and you have all the engravings needed, and even collected a couple of Ostra cards and enough ability points to make one of the most and strongest powerful builds ever, which will carry you through the entire game. Most of you have probably started playing Odyssey with one of the level 22 builds, and I'm so glad and so proud that I've made these builds and they have been watched so many times by you. These builds are a true game changer when you start playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and definitely a must watch. When it comes down to the easiest build you can make by using absolutely only 3 items and a complete legendary set that is easy to collect, then you have to go for the best free warrior build 2023. What makes this build so special is not only the fact that it uses only 3 available items, but it also mixed up legendary armor items for the first time ever to use the best possible piece for every spot on your gear. And that created a build with much better stats than by using any other complete legendary set in the game. Because a complete legendary set have usually a lot of rubbish engravings which you totally want to avoid, but this build used 3 items with the best possible perks you can use. And it still remains the best legendary build to date. On spot number 5 we have the best Hunter build 2023. This is special because Hunter builds normally were considered completely obsolete with the Bighorn bow, because the Bighorn bow made your arrows use warrior damage and therefore you only have to care about stacking up your warrior damage, because that would also mean you have the highest potential arrow damage. But Korfu Island also gave us incredible ways to stack up to 500% headshot damage, and this is what this build makes so special. It will deal up to 500% additional headshot damage, which is put on top of your existing critical damage, giving you over 1000% critical hits when you make headshots. This is only possible when you combine the 100% headshot damage but increased adrenaline consumption from Korfu Island and the 200% headshot damage from the second sight bow. These all together will give you up to 25 million damage for a headshot, which is the highest damage you will ever be able to achieve by using a Hunter build. Despite the damage we got from all those crazy Korfu engravings, one thing was always a problem while playing with those builds, and that is the survivability. The endgame build was especially designed to counter this by giving you ISO enhance together with the Ares Madness cooldown reset, which literally makes you invincible forever. It also gives you a full health bar with 100% health and a permanent fire sword with almost no damage sacrifice. Even today I still consider the best endgame build one of the most and perfect all-round builds I've ever made. However, the first entry for the top 3 is the best build of all time. The best build of all time not only has 100% health and a complete health bar, but it also completely countered the damage effect from the Korfu engraving. Because with the Korfu engraving you will receive minus 100% resistances for all those damage types. And that acts basically as a damage doubler. So whenever you wear the Korfu engraving you will literally receive the double amount of damage. But if you equip your build with 100% chance to receive only half the damage, you will completely counter this effect and your build will only receive the normal amount of damage. So you literally eliminate the negative effect from the Korfu engraving and you can play with a full health bar, use parry and whatever you want. On top of that you can also stack more melee resistance to make your build even tankier while you still use the Korfu engraving. This build definitely deserves a permanent slot in your inventory. Place number 2 goes to the best warrior build of 2023. In this build we have thrown out the Korfu engraving entirely and we went all in on absolute maximum resistances, so that you don't take any damage from melee and elemental attacks and almost no damage from arrow attacks as well. Even without the Korfu engraving this build was still really powerful, because it used the Typhoon's Axe to give the Greek hero set 100% crit shots and 200% additional critical damage. It also introduced a new trick so that you can immediately activate the 200% critical damage from the Typhoon's Axe. You just have to abort your fire attacks with Aza Shadow of Nyx or by simply pulling out your torch and switching back to your weapon. With both of these actions you will have the 200% critical damage immediately active even before you enter your battle. So if you ever want to play with a tank build, then this is the absolute go-to build for it. But the new number 1 daily build for me is the Ultimate Build 2024. It is simply so much fun to play with those assassin damage to nearby abilities from Hero Strike and especially from the normal assassination, which gives 1 billion damage to every enemy nearby. Combining these with Shadow of Nyx to fool your enemies and strike back from the shadows and kill everyone around you is simply completely amazing and blowing your mind when you play with this build. It is basically the perfect assassin build you can make in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and on top of that it also has an insane amount of warrior damage and hunter damage, which simply makes it the best all-round build ever. And what is actually greater than showing your friends the crazy Knife of Dalvon glitch, which gives you 1 billion damage every time you use it. This build is so crazy that it definitely deserves the number 1 top spot on this list. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Definitely try out the builds I showed you here, because these ones are definitely really special. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like and see you next time.